Hello, I'm Lucas from Global. Everyone wants to be happy. When you clicked on this video, it might have been to learn something, but it was also because you believed it could bring you joy. But how do we measure happiness? And is happiness a valid indicator in measuring a country's success? When measuring something in a country, GDP first comes to mind. GDP, or Gross Domestic Product, is the sum of added values created by an area in a given period. A country's GDP is often exploited as a measure of the country's wealth, and high-scoring countries are frequently regarded as boasting good living conditions. In turn, good living conditions allow for more comfortable and usually happier lives. Yet these numbers are immediately falsified when we compare, for example, the UK's and India's GDP as of 2019. $2.829 trillion for the former and $2.869 trillion for the latter. It is safe to say living conditions are, however, generally better in the UK than in India. Even GDP per capita only gives us a mean value and does not illustrate wealth disparities. Questioning politics is not my role in this series, but I think most will agree that money is not the sole factor in bringing happiness. That is where Bhutan's innovating metric comes in. This is Bhutan and gross national happiness. Bhutan, literally the Thunder Dragon Empire, is a Himalayan constitutional monarchy home to 754,000 people spread across 38,400 square kilometres. Although part of the Indian subcontinent, it is strongly influenced by its northern Tibetan neighbour, and Buddhism is the official religion. The country is often seen as a peaceful cradle of tradition. You may even have mulled over the thought of travelling there to explore the iconic Tiger's Nest Monastery before being thrown back by the alarming $200 daily tax on foreign visitors. We will come back to this. After centuries of civil war, Bhutan was reunified in 1907 and hereditary monarchy was established. Ugyen Wangchuck became the first Dragon King of Bhutan, and the system remained unchanged for 4 generations. During the 20th century, Bhutan underwent a series of reforms, mostly political. In 1953, a National Assembly was established as the country moved further and further away from absolute monarchy. When elaborating the philosophy that would guide his reign, the 4th Dragon King of Bhutan, Jigme Singye Wangchuck, decided that gross national happiness, or GNH, is more important than gross domestic product. GNH rests on 4 main pillars: environmental preservation, socio-economic development, fair governance, and the protection of culture. These are evaluated in a series of 9 different domains, including health, education, and community vitality, by a series of surveys offered to Bhutanese citizens. Bhutan is unique in the world. Not only is it striving to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions, but it is even carbon negative. That means the entire country emits less greenhouse gases than its environment can process. It is even written in the constitution that at least 60% of the country has to be covered in woodland. Admittedly, it is not home to any high-polluting industry, but this is still a feat. This healthy environment is our first pillar of GNH. During Jigme Singye Wangchuck's reign, Bhutan's socio-economic situation was revolutionised. The mileage of roads was tripled, health services were reinforced, and by 2006, school enrollment had reached 90%. Infant mortality rates diminished with the improved access to clean drinking water. In the same period, Bhutan's GDP increased 15-fold, reaching $2.5 billion in 2019. By focusing on this pillar of gross national happiness, Bhutan managed to ensure better living standards for its citizens while promoting economic growth. As we have seen, Bhutan slowly transformed into a constitutional monarchy. If the people had more choice about their governance, then they would be happier. This culminated in the fourth Dragon King's abdication in 2006, followed shortly by the first set of parliamentary elections. Culture is, however, the most interesting and profound area of gross national happiness. Bhutan has always been culturally isolated because of its topography. Buddhism, now the central cultural framework of Bhutan, was indeed only introduced to the country in the 7th century CE, quite late when you consider Buddhism was founded in the 6th century BCE. Preservation of this strong cultural heritage is very important for the Bhutanese. The aforementioned $200 daily tax on foreign visitors allows Bhutan to remain culturally detached from the outside world and ensures traditional monasteries do not turn into Disneylands for foreign visitors. At first, cultural conservatism may appear to be an entirely legitimate claim, but Bhutan has pushed the concept a little too far. A policy of one people, one nation was introduced, along with a traditional code of dress and etiquette, Driglam Namzak. Men have to wear gos and women have to wear kiras. Yet Bhutan is not strictly speaking one people. Indeed, the northern areas closer to the capital, Thimphu, are mostly Buddhist, but the southern areas hold closer demographic and cultural ties to Nepal and India. This is especially true for the Losampas, an ethnic group originating from Nepal, some of which practice Hinduism. In the 1980s, more than 100,000 Losampas were violently forced out of Bhutan in an attempt at ethnic cleansing. As the Refugee Council of Australia put it, it is extraordinary and shocking that a nation can get away with expelling 1/6 of its population and somehow keep its international reputation largely intact. The government of Bhutan should not be known for gross national happiness, but for gross national hypocrisy. The government of Bhutan therefore hid dark deeds behind an image of a peaceful Himalayan monastic nation. To give you an idea, slavery was only officially abolished in Bhutan in 1958. The complexity of gross national happiness and the way it has shaped Bhutanese society, for better or worse, is very compelling. Bhutan actively works for the UN's adoption of GNH. Happiness, that is, not hypocrisy. After a high-level meeting in 2012 attended by the Bhutanese Prime Minister, the first World Happiness Report was issued and March the 20th became International Day of Happiness. GNH is slowly being recognised by a growing number of countries, including Thailand. But where does this leave Bhutan in the United Nations World Happiness Report ranking? Bhutan was 95th out of 156 countries. Finland has officially been nominated as the happiest country in the world for the 3rd year running. Perhaps the Thunder Dragon Empire ought to roar a little more sweetly. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please do consider subscribing to help this series gain in visibility. Keep on exploring! Goodbye.